So if you need some help with the second part of our lab using Earthquake Gizmo number 2, this is the video for you. Okay, so you should have a completed data table. All of this should be filled in. You should have your data here in your delta T. Now, what you should also do is there's a graph right next to your data table. You should have taken that data, and when you plot it, it should look like a line pretty close to this. Pretty straight, starting about here, all the way up to the 1,000-kilometer distance. You should have this. This is going to be super valuable. If your line doesn't look like this, go back and remeasure the ones that don't make your line look like this, like if this one's too low or too tall, or if this one's too low or too tall. Go back to the 600 or to the 800 and remeasure these and get a better delta T that fits in this line, because this is going to determine your success on Earthquake number 2. All right, so let's go. Here we are, Earthquake 2. I'm just going to start the earthquake. It's one earthquake. Here's our map. It doesn't tell you where the earthquake started, but there are 3 reporting stations on this map somewhere, and they've all recorded the same earthquake. Let's measure each wave individually. We're going to be able to take that delta T and use apply it to what we found on our graph and be able to get some distances and maybe draw some circles, and where all these circles line up, where they all cross each other, that's where we should find the epicenter of the earthquake. So let's show the time probe here. We're going to measure, I'm measuring recording station A. I'm measuring from the beginning of the P to the beginning of the S. Okay, and I got 66 seconds. So I'm going to write that on my page. So let me get a scratch piece of paper here. Okay, 66 seconds. Now, here's what I do with that information. I go back to my line. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I am going to look for, here's 60. In the middle is 70. If I cut this and 60 in half, I get 65. So probably right there. There's 66. So I'm trying to make as straight of a cut as I can, straight across this line. And where 66 hits my line that I drew, I'm going to come straight down off of that intersection. So it looks like it hit right about here. That works. I'm going to come straight down, and that's going to tell me my distance right about there. So it's just a touch over 500. So I'm going to come back to my gizmo here, show me station A, and I'm going to say pretty close to 500. That's where I'm going to make my claim as to where my earthquake is. Okay? Now, station B, let's measure it. There's the very beginning of the first S. Here's the very beginning of the first P wave. I get 108. 108. All right. I'm going to go back to my graph here. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of that. So 108. I'm going to look up. Here's 100. Halfway is 110. So just a skosh below there is 108. Let me move that all the way across. And okay, there's 108. So 108, my 108 hits the line right here. So I quickly look down from here, and it looks like my distance is going to be right about 850. So I'm going to come back to my data here. This is going to go to 850. Ooh. All right, so there's 850. And then I'm going to go to my data here, and I'm going to measure the last. There's the beginning of the first P. There's the beginning of the first S, and it says 51 seconds. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to look up 51 seconds now on my data, or on my chart. So 50 is exactly between 40 and 60. 51 is just a touch above that. So I'm drawing a straight line across, and my line hits right almost at exactly 400. So I'm just going to say 400, that's pretty good. 400, okay? Boom, 400, and all 3 of them meet right here. And if I've done this correctly, and in this case I have, you get this symbol, and it says epicenter has been found. Okay. Now, special tip about screenshotting this. Okay. On your computers, it's Control-Shift, and then that little box that has 2 lines after it. You do that, and you can screenshot it. For some reason, if you were to use the tool here and screenshot it like mine's doing right now, for some reason, unless you have a mouse that's plugged in, like I've got this one, if you're using the pad, it won't let you right-click and drop this into an email. So just screenshot it, okay, and then it's in your clipboard already. But what I would do is I would go ahead and when it comes up that it saved to your clipboard, I'd open up an email, drop this in an email, send it to me, and you're done. So the screenshot I'm looking for is one that says Epicenter has been found. That'll give you full credit. Now, let's say, what if you tried a whole bunch and the closest you got was like, let's say you got something that was pretty close. Let's say you got this, where, okay, if you get just a red dot, that means your measurements were off, but they're pretty close to finding the epicenter. If this is as good as you can get, screenshot this, and I'll give you maybe like 80% of the points. I'll give you 4 out of 5 instead of either you find it or you don't. You either get a 5 out of 5 or you get 0. If you can send me this, I'll give you a 4 out of 5. You got pretty close. Okay, you got pretty close. So screenshot that one and send it to me if you can't find the real one. Okay, so I think I've covered everything. And I think that was like, where was that? Yeah, now I moved this and I can't find exactly where I had this. Oh well. No big deal. You all saw that I found the epicenter. Okay, so that's how you do Earthquake 2. Please keep in mind that you're probably going to want to engage in those questions that are below both of these Earthquake Gizmos, 1 and 2. There's 5 beneath Earthquake 1, 5 beneath Earthquake 2. Do those, submit them, I see them immediately, and you can see how you did, because that's going to prepare you for what's coming up next. All right, thanks so much. Hope this was informative and you really got a lot out of it.